Hey there, what you drinking? 2 shots, let's pour it up. I know what you're thinking, but tomorrow won't come for us. This life that we're living, ain't never gonna give it up. Double shot for the gifted, and one more for us. There you go, drink it up. All this love in a cup. Yeah, we go slow, we go fast. Yeah, we can't get enough. We stay all day, all night, living in paradise. Remember, you don't get it twice. The time of your life. This is the time of your life. Remember, you don't get it twice. The time of your life. Don't look at the past, no, we're not going that way. Oh, now make it last, make it last to the break of day. No matter what people say, live life in a fast lane. Double shot for the gifted, triple shot for the pain. There you go, drink it up, all this love in a cup. Yeah, we go slow, we go fast. Yeah, we can't get enough. We stay all day, all night, living in paradise. Remember, you don't get it twice. The time of your life. This is the time of your life. Remember, you don't get it twice. The time of your life. Remember, you don't get it twice. The time of your life.
I'm locked in. Guess I'm locked in. Looking for a piece of mind. I've been trying to redefine life. I can see the signs. Word is gonna see me shine. Fighting for my soul's sake. Whipping fast, no brakes. Nothing's ever been a waste. Now that I've been wide awake, Luke's trying to pull me back in. I was stuck for a minute and forgot the passion. Since the lights turned on, it's been camera action. And you start to see it all like a chain reaction. Watch it happen, yeah. Swear that I'ma find my way. Past been gone, I'ma watch it all fade. Whoa, guess I'm going MIA from everybody's problems. Oh, guess I'm locked in, guess I'm locked in. I got this, and it's on my soul. Guess I'm locked in, guess I'm locked in. I got this, and that's on my soul. Time's moving, I've been losing track of where I've been. Had to quiet all the voices living in my head. I see the riches of the world, I'm not impressed. Know that I'm far from perfect, but trying my best. Looking up to the sky, feeling grateful. Boy, I had to walk away from the fake road. Can't believe I'm still here on my way to find out the truth. Swear that I'ma find my way. Past been gone, I'ma watch it all fade. Whoa, guess I'm going MIA from everybody's problems. Oh, guess I'm locked in, guess I'm locked in. I got this, and it's on my soul. Guess I'm locked in, guess I'm locked in. I got this, and that's on my soul.
Writing in the margins of my mind all day. Sipping herbal in the morning just to feel okay. Had a dream I was water just flowing through space, till I landed on the record that my grandma would play. Talk sweet like jazz in the park after rain. Water grass smell green and the air feels sane. Put the phone on mute, let the silence explain. I don't need much, just a book in the brain. Used to chase things that were run from me. Now I sit still, let the peace come free. Paint a verse in the sky with a loose leaf. While the moon do a dance with a soft oak tree. Let it ride, let it be, let it be what it be. Got a breeze in my chest and a thought run free. I don't rush, I don't race, I just float on 3. Got a vibe in my soul, got a life on key. Let it ride, let it breathe, let it roll like that. Got the world in my cup and the beat in the back. I don't stress, I don't fold, I just lean on facts. If the sun don't shine, I'ma still bounce back. I've been good, I've been gone, I've been lost in the loops. Got a hoodie and some headphones, walking with troops. Ain't no inches in the feed, just noise and flex. But I found God once in a vinyl set. Talk slow when I speak, let the moment stretch. Learn peace ain't found, it's a thing you protect. Yeah, I vibe like water, I change and shift. But the roots still deep like my grandma's grits. City move fast, but I drift like smoke. Let the rhythm in my chest be the way I cope. Wrote a song for the days that feel soft and broke. Where the healing don't shout, but it still got hope. Let it ride, let it be, let it be what it be. Got a breeze in my chest and a thought run free. I don't rush, I don't race, I just float on 3. Got a vibe in my soul, got a life on key. Let it ride, let it breathe, let it roll like that. Got the world in my cup and the beat in the back. I don't stress, I don't fold, I just lean on facts. If the sun don't shine, I'ma still bounce back. Let it ride, let it breathe, let it be what it be. Got a breeze in my chest and a thought run free. I don't rush, I don't race, I just float on 3. Got a vibe in my soul, got a life on key. Let it ride, let it breathe, let it roll like that. Got the world in my cup and the beat in the back. I don't stress, I don't fold, I just lean on facts. If the sun don't shine, I'ma still bounce back.
Fall back apart. Find pieces of me all over the yard. In this house of cards, she says, hey man, there were just too many days when our good intentions only got in the way. And I almost never know what I should say. Maybe nothing nowhere ever was that okay. In this house of cards, with only hearts. Reap what you never did sow. You cannot learn what you never won't know. In this house of cards, with only hearts. In this house of cards,
was that even for? Was you playing your games? Was you really bored? No. Oh, I really should've known. Be with anime till we hit a red light. Didn't see the signs. Oh, after all that time, this is it for us. You don't wanna try. Thought your love was real, but it never was. No, you can't decide. Should've known. Be with anime till we hit a red light. Didn't see the side. Oh, after all that time, this is it for us. You don't wanna try. Thought your love was real, but it never was. No, you can't decide. Oh, oh, oh. After all this time, this is it for us. We were sparks on quiet streets, two hearts finding where to meet. But life pulled us apart, left me talking to the dark. If I called you tonight, would it feel the same? Or have we both moved on to different names? Take me back to the start, before the quiet and the scars. When the world felt small and your hands felt warm. Take me back to the start, if only for a moment. I've been up since 3, scrolling back where we used to be. Half truths in this late night chat, both of us knowing what a lie that. Funny how we talk like we're fine, but your name still lives in my rhyme. Take me back to the start, before the quiet and the scars. Take me back to the start, before the quiet and the scars. When the world felt small and your hands felt warm. Take me back to the start, if only for a moment. To the start, before the quiet and the scars. Take me back to the start, before the quiet and the scars. When the world felt small and your hands felt warm. Take me back to the start, if only for a moment.
두 번째는 훌리건입니다. 이 곡은 제가 진짜 좋아하는
If
곡이에요.
only for a
준비가
moment. Take me back to the start, before the
이 곡은
quiet and the
제가 좋아하는 탑3 곡 중에서 하나이긴
When
한데
the world